So I got my Spyder fog light kits in a couple of days ago, but I haven't had time to make a video for it. So these are the lights that I'll be installing in my 2009 Toyota Corolla. It's an XLE model, and I'll be following a user on Toyota Nation, Task 1, and using their guide to install the fog lights and using the factory harness and using a factory relay without using any of the pre-made wire kits, and I'll be using this though for the fog light switch, basically. This is the relay that they sent me. These are the lamps and the molding, and this is the factory relay that I got off of Amazon. And basically the relay cost me $10 and the Spyder kit cost me $65. So it's fairly cheap. I'll begin by removing both trims on the side of the console, and then basically removing the entire thing from the AC, radio, controls, and these two things. My car is off, as you can see, so I'll be using the manual shift override. So I'll begin by putting this car in this up, putting that up. All right, let's begin. So now I will be using the manual shifter override to put this thing into neutral so I can remove this part right here. Press down and then shift. There are two screws, one right here and right here to remove. And then when you pull this out, be careful of the wire right here. You just want to leave it gently right there. So now we'll be removing the upper trim and everything else. As y'all can see, I finally got my car taken apart. It took me almost an hour because I actually had to go to Home Depot and buy a 10mm hex socket and extension because it was necessary to take apart the radio. This took a while because mainly it was hard to take off the trim pieces because they required a lot of forces. I actually bent two of the clips trying to take them off, so be careful with that when y'all do this. I chose to do it with my car off because I thought that was safer. And so basically I did the shifter override. So I popped off that little piece right there. I pressed down and then I was able to shift this into, well, it's in 3 right now, but it was in D earlier. So underneath the climate control, y'all can see the relays down here. And so there's actually a lot of openings, as you can see. There's, I think, a total of 8 of them. Like, there's 2 underneath the blues, and then on the right side of the blue one, there's 2 open ones. But I noticed that 3 of them don't have what looks like metal connections inside of them. And so, after doing a lot of research and looking around, I believe that my relay has to go into the slot above the blue Denso relay on the right side. So it goes on the right there. And probably nowhere else because I was just, based on diagrams and a lot of research, his car might have been different than my car because I have an XLE model. So insert the relay into that one right there, so y'all can see. Climate control. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 relays installed. I will be inserting my relay into this socket right here. So I just got the relay installed. It took like 10 seconds to install it because all I had to do was press it in. So as y'all can see, the relay that I had was the gray one that I bought. And so I installed it in, I guess from the bottom down on the right side, there is one, as y'all can kind of see beneath the blue. So from the bottom, it's the third one up. If not second from the top on the right side. That's where I installed my relay for the fog lights. So it might be different for y'all's cars, but this is where I installed mine. So now I'm basically going to put my car back together and pray that it turns on, and I'm pretty sure it will turn on. But after that, I'll be installing the fog lights in the front of the car. Please excuse any wind noise because it's really windy outside, but here comes the fun part of removing the front bumper to install the fog lights. The main reason why I'm installing the fog lights first before installing the switch in the car and wiring it up is because I need to be able to test to make sure that the wire connections and the switch are working properly. So that's why I'm installing fog lights first. So according to most online instructions, there are a couple of screws you have to remove. There's, I believe, a total of 6. There's one here, one there, one here, one here, here, and here. So those are the top screws to remove, and then to remove the top part. And then there's a few in the wheel well and beneath the bumper with the splash guards. So I'll be showing you all those later. There's also one more screw right here. So also a push pin tab that's right next to the hood release tab. Okay, starting on the passenger side of the vehicle, this is a push pin tab. So basically you get a small flathead and pop it up like so, and then just pull it out like that. Don't lose it. And then this one, it's not the switch. Okay. Screwdriver. Oh, the screwdriver is in the car. Okay, this one, screw out. So this tab right here basically keeps your hood leveled whenever it's closed. So time to take that out. It's very rusty for mine. Not realizing how rusty it is, I just basically stripped my screw. So I'll be removing the rest of the screws. Switching to the wheel wells, there's 3 screws to remove. One is this one. There's a screw here. And the bottom one is pretty simple. If you get a flathead that's small enough, you could pop it underneath and pop it out, and it comes out just like that. And then this one up here is a screw that you can screw out. Underneath the car, there should be one screw right here that holds the bumper to the splash guards underneath. It should be on the same side, but I had already removed it from the other side as whenever I was testing it out. So basically, one screw right there, and that's it. And as you can see, the factory fog light harnesses are right there. So I forgot to mention, after I unscrewed this one, I realized that there was another one right here beneath it next to this thing. So there's one right here to remove as well. So that's the same on the other side. Basically, because of this one screw that's stripped, I can't take off the whole bumper. So what I'm going to have to do is basically pry off the bumper and basically have someone hold it open while I take off that front cover, go underneath the car, and install the fog lights. Fog light covers, there's 3 clips to be released. There's one, I think it's the focus, right there, there, and in the very back, somewhere right there, my finger's touching. So I'm going to release these clips to pop out the front cover.
Go down a little more. Go down. There you go.
Oh, there's actually 4. Just kidding.
Oh.
There's one right there as well.
Oh, I thought there wasn't. I was like...
And it comes out just like that. So that's good.
on my freshly polished
Sorry, Dara.
feet.
And then same thing on the
My
other.
nails were beautiful for sure.
Yes. So now there's the other side to do as well. So I can do that. With the Spyder fog lights, they provide you 4 screw holes. And while I was trying to fit it in, I discovered that you will only need 3 of them. You'll need all the ones on the left side, as I'm holding, and the top right one. But you actually only screw in the top 2. The bottom one goes into, as you can see, this one right here. The bottom clip slips into this little hole and basically holds it in. So I will install that. And so I tried the hard way, but I'm going to go underneath by pushing the splash guard down and inserting it up in here. Make sure the bottom one, left one, goes into that hole, and then push it into place. Like so, see? And then screw in the top 2 screws from behind. As you can see, they're finally installed. It's in there, I'm hoping pretty tightly. It wiggles a little, but you know. The final part is to attach in the frame. Let's see if I can do this one-handed. And then just like that, they are installed. Although I am curious as to why there's a gap. Just like that, they are installed. Beautiful, aren't they? The thing is that, as you can see, there's a little gap right there, and I'm not sure why there's a gap, but I had screwed it all on pretty tightly, and so I'm assuming it's just there for water to slip through or something like that. But other than that, I have the left side installed. So now, well, driver's side installed, so now passenger side. So now I will install the wire lights. The fog lights. So mine are zip tied right there, and I will clip them and plug them in to the fog lights right there. Toyota had it wired like that, so that right there in that clip and on the wire, and then I plugged it into the fog light. Just like that. And so it's one wire. I didn't have to zip tie anything together or anything else. Now that both fog lights are installed, like so, and like so, the wires are hooked up, I can put my car back together and basically follow the steps backwards and reinstall all the screws. And then after that, I will test the wiring harnesses to make sure they work. So this is the aftermarket fog light switch wires that came with my kit, and according to Taswan's guide, I will only be needing this end that connects to the switch. So basically I'll be pretty much cut right here to expose all the wires. The rest of these, this goes to the aftermarket fuse, this goes into the fuse box, these are ground wires, these are taps that go into ignition switches and all that stuff, and this connects to the fog lights if I was using the aftermarket kit. But I'm following Taswan's guide using the factory wires for the fog lights, so I'll only be needing this one right here. So what I did was I pretty much cut down the length of the tubing to expose these 3 wires, and in his guide he said there is a black wire, a blue wire, and a green wire. Black is most likely ground, and in his guide he didn't ground it, but in mine I will probably ground it if I can find a place to ground the switch to. After that, I'm just going to strip these wires so that I can get the copper exposed. And since I didn't have a wire stripper, I'm pretty sure these are wire cutters, to gently clip around the plastic housing and rotating and clipping very gently until I kind of see some copper wire exposed, but I don't press too hard. Like I said, I'm not clipping all the way. I've gotten far enough. I see a little bit of copper wire exposed. I'm going to twist. Oops, sorry. I'm going to twist and pull. And then, since these are all frayed out like that, I will twist these together so that they stay together. And then this is what happens when I clipped too hard and I basically clipped off the ground wire. But it's okay, there's still a lot left, as you can see. There's plenty of wire left. So if I need to ground it, then I will use this part and ground somewhere. Using the same technique as I mentioned earlier, where I gently press the wire cutters together onto the plastic housing and rotating, I also created a secondary wire to connect the red and white wires underneath the steering wheel that I will further show later. As you can see, my car hasn't exploded yet. And so now, in this portion of the video guide, we will remove basically all this to get to this part right here to install the switch, and to remove this bottom portion cover to access I guess what basically are the wires to connect the other wires to the red and white wires anyways. So, let's begin. In his guide, he mentioned that as you rotate the steering wheel around, there are two little holes that you can insert like a small screwdriver into. These are the two holes he's talking about. And so basically, now to access this panel right here to install a switch, you're gonna have to remove this screw and that screw to pull this part off. This part first anyways, and then we will remove basically this panel right here and this panel. I think this panel, I'm not pretty sure, but we are removing this panel and this panel right here. So now that I got this panel off, there is the reset switch right here that I will disconnect. The way that I disconnected it was that I had to push this little retaining tab down right here, push it down, and then pull it out. So to remove this panel right here, after I had removed the two screws to remove this panel, I basically grabbed on the side right here and pulled so that it popped off. Grab down here, pull that so that it pops off, and pull a little bit, not too hard, not too gently, and there we go. Now if you notice, I have a bunch of other excess of wiring in here. This is because I have an aftermarket security system remote starter installed, so don't pay attention to any of this wiring right here. Ignore all those. Now that I have it removed, I'm going to remove any of these three panels that I want. For me, I'm going to do the one that is probably right next to the mirror controls. So to do that, I have a flat splunger tool thing, and so I'm going to press down on this tab right here. This tab right here. Just press down, insert it in, and then press down and force it out. I can't do this one-handed, so I will show y'all afterwards. So just like that, it is out. What I had to do was insert the plunger tool into that clip underneath it. So like, I'm using this as an example. Use this tool insert it right there. Right there, insert it underneath between the two. While I'm pushing down, use any of my fingers and push the thing out. Just like that. And now I can install my switch. So now I have the fog light switch installed. I pretty much just pushed it in and pushed it into place. See? And make sure it works. Yeah, it clicks like that. All I have left to do is plug the wire back in, route it through this mess of wires, and install it and plug it in with the other wires. And I will show you all that in just a second. Although I just discovered my switch is broken right here, the one that came with my kit. So as you can see, it comes out like that normally. You know, it's off. Whenever I want it on, it's supposed to stay back, but it pops back up. So basically, if I wanted to turn on my fog lights, then I wouldn't be able to. I'd have to press basically as hard as I could so that the switch becomes engaged, so my fog lights turn on. So eventually I will be replacing this. So I also had to pop off the steering wheel cover, this part right here. Basically it wasn't like that, and I just kind of had to wiggle it off and pop it off. Just kind of be careful not to wreck anything underneath it. So once the steering wheel cover is removed, we find the infamous, and I quote, infamous red and white wire that are used for the headlights, connected to the headlight stock right here. See? This is the headlight stock. So these wires right here are what he said to connect, to use basically a jumper cable in between the two, so that whenever the fog lights, or I'm sorry, my correction, whenever the headlights come on, the fog lights will come on as well. That's what basically that wire that connects the two is for. But for me, since I want it differently, I want to be able to independently control when my fog lights come on. I'm not going to be using the wire that connects the two. Instead, what I will be doing is, as you saw earlier, I don't know if you saw earlier or not, I had the blue and green wires that come from the fog light switch. So what I basically will be doing is connecting the blue wire to the white one, and the green wire to the red one. So green, red, blue, white. So what this allows me to do is independently control my fog lights, so that if I want them on, they can come on. But however, they will only come on when the headlights are activated. And when the high beams come on, then the fog lights shut off, basically. So I'll be connecting those two wires, and oh yeah, so instead of just pulling them out, I'm going to basically do what he did in his tutorial and have the wires stripped like this and insert them into the connector itself. That way I won't have to cut into any wires, and it will still all look factory. So earlier in my videos I said that I was going to basically ground the switch, but the Teswan didn't ground his switch, and so I figured, I wouldn't ground my switch just to be safe. But I don't know if grounding is necessary, mainly because, well, I did that. I tied that into the clip that came with the harness, but you see how the switch is off when I ground it. So for example, if I touch this metal part right here, the switch turns green. And that green is really ugly because it doesn't match the orange accent lights and everything else. So I'm not gonna ground it, just for the sake of not draining my battery, because I would like, I don't know why it does this. I wish I did, but sadly, if I can't ground it and it's constantly always on, then my battery is going to drain. So, looks like no grounding. I'm going to snip that wire and call it a day. As you can hear, my car is running and I'm not on fire. Nothing's blown up yet. So as I mentioned earlier, I was not going to do the black wire connection between the two, but instead I just inserted the green into the red, the blue into the white, just like that. I know it's messy kind of, but I will clean that up later, hopefully, so that it looks better. If not, I might have to do a lot of trial and error to get back to working. I tucked the black wire back in because after a lot of testing, I found out that if I ground the switch, the light will come on, which is nice, but the light stays on even if the car is off. But if I turn the fog lights on, the light switch turns off. Like the light for the switch turns off. So I'm just not gonna waste battery power and leave it off completely. So as you can see, the switch is in. So I will press the switch. Yeah, like I said, my switch is broken, so I might have to replace that eventually. And my lovely makeshift device that tricks my car into thinking that it's dark outside. Okay. It's the dash lights, the console lights are not flashing, it's just the way the camera's working. As you can see, headlights are on, fog light comes on as well. Over here, the switch is off. See, it's off, mainly because I have automatic headlights. So, fog lights are on with the headlights are on, and when the headlights turn off, as you see, I removed my lovely device. Eventually, the lights will turn off. See, I undid my switch, and the lights turned off. Okay, now you can see everything's off now. If I press the switch, the fog light indicator does not come on. But when I leave the switch depressed, meaning that the switch is on, cover the lovely light sensor, wait for the headlights to turn on. Any moment now. You can see the lights automatically turned on. We will go out front now to see my beautiful work. As you can see, headlights are on and both fog lights are on. Woo! Let's take a closer look. You see the headlights and the fog lights. There you have it. This is following to Swan's guide and with my own personal modification. Basically, my car looks factory. Please excuse my mess. As you can see, nothing looks wrong. There's an addition of a switch. My fog lights are currently off, but let me turn them on. Fog light indicator comes on. My handy dandy light blocking device. As you can see outside the car, both the headlight and fog lights are on. Now when I lift up my hood, my battery terminal looks factory. It all looks factory. Minus my aftermarket horn over here, but that's moot point. See, battery terminal looks factory. Just like that. So now when I turn off my fog lights, The fog lights turn off, but the headlights remain on. And if I turn them on, and shut off my car, everything is off. Headlights are off, fog lights are off. And removing my lovely device, turning on my car. As you can see, the switch is still pressed down, depressed, so the switch is on, but the fog light indicator is off. And the fog lights are off. The only thing that's on are the daytime running lights. So there you have it. Thank y'all so much for watching.